Hello, Internet. I am Pastor Recoil, and welcome to my parish. Today is the first Sunday of Advent, and we're going to talk about it. Welcome for the first time to Pastor Recoil's parish, where I talk about some things in the Bible that you may not have heard about, either because it's not quite appropriate for all audiences, or it just isn't something that's easy to talk about in a sermon. I'm not here to talk about grand theological truths or complicated details about how the book of whatever was written. There's plenty of other creators out there on the internet who are much smarter and much better educated than me, if that's what you're looking for. No, I'm just going to talk as plainly as I can about some things in the readings assigned for each Sunday that I might not be able to say in a sermon in church, or even just things that didn't quite fit the direction that I ended up going, but still thought was important. We're starting today with the first Sunday of Advent, where the readings come from Jeremiah chapter 33, verse 14 to 16, Psalm 25, 1 Thessalonians 3, 9 to 13, and Luke 21, 25 to 36. These are pretty straightforward readings for the most part, as the church calendar shifts to preparing us for two events, celebrating the birth of Jesus at Christmas and hoping for Jesus' promised return. Jeremiah 33 starts off with a promise. The time is coming when God will fulfill one of God's promises, specifically a promise of someone who will bring justice and righteousness to the land. The land will be saved, and Jerusalem will be renamed. The name of God, is our righteousness. Psalm 25 celebrates God's faithfulness and asks God to guide us in righteousness, encouraging us, the readers of the psalm, to be faithful to God in return for God's faithfulness to us. 1 Thessalonians 3 has even more encouragement in righteousness, with the Apostle Paul, who wrote 1 Thessalonians, praying for the people of the Thessalonian church that they continue to love one another and continue to be holy and righteous as they wait for Jesus to come back. And then Luke 21 comes out of nowhere and throws down some doom. After the other readings, well, they're all so happy and hopeful. And then Luke shows up with people fainting from fear and foreboding, with signs and chaos and fig trees. Luke tells us that everything is going to be awful and terrible, and all the hope that you got from the other three readings is gone, swallowed up by all that doom. But then again, sometimes doom is something that we need. I mean, for instance, if I have a long-term project that I'm working on, I remember this very well from the last time I was in school, it's really easy to put off a long-term project when there's not something like an impending deadline motivating me. Sure, I can start the project now, but there's so many other things to do. That actually happened over and over with this series. I've been putting it off for about 6 months without really doing anything about it. But then all of a sudden some life changes happened, and I finally had a reason to start working on Pastor Recoil's parish. After a long time of not having something motivating me, I think now I finally do. So I think about this section of Luke's gospel and the things that Jesus is saying, and it kind of provides motivation. Jesus says, look around, stuff's happening. get your stuff together because you don't want to get caught up in the doom. Jesus is trying to motivate people, and he uses imagery of everything going doomy to do it. But what is Jesus trying to motivate people to do? Well, I think it's all the stuff that Paul in 1 Thessalonians, the psalmist in Psalm 25, and Jeremiah in Jeremiah 33 are talking about. Jesus is using this talk of signs and dismay and fear to get people to act right and to actually care about other people. That's something that's really popular with Jesus, after all. He says that the most important thing for his followers to do is to love God with everything they are and love the people around them, their neighbors, like they love themselves. And he even makes those two things sound like they're really the same thing. But we humans aren't very good at being faithful to God or living out our righteousness on our own, which is kind of another way to say loving God and loving your neighbor. So Jesus gives his disciples some motivation. Some gnarly stuff is going to happen, so get it together so you're not caught with your loincloths down. It's been a long time since Jesus, and a lot of gnarly stuff has happened since then, but the same statement really applies. The world still needs people to care about other people, which is especially depressing for those of us who want to follow Jesus, because the people who bear Jesus' name are often the ones who are doing the bad stuff. And it's because we haven't done the best job of caring about other people. And I think that's what we're left with on this first Sunday of Advent. Be faithful to God and live out righteousness. Or in other words, love God and love your neighbor, because stuff is going to happen in our world that needs us to care about other people. So if you want to see more content like this, check out the links to my right, or click on the logo just below my face to subscribe so you'll know when my next video comes out. Thank you for watching, and take the time this week to love your neighbor as yourself, especially if you don't like them very much.